Hi everyone, I'm going to solve some tactical puzzles on chess.com, and I'm going to take my time. There's a clock ticking over here, but I do want to make sure I get them correct. Okay, so white just played bishop here. I think he took something and he's attacking my heavy pieces. Okay, otherwise material does look equal. So let's see, I have an obvious check here. Okay, and I think there's one response because rook to f2 will lose to either queen takes f2 or knight takes f2. So after checking here, king will go in the corner. And then I have knight to f2 check. And there, I think white will have to take the knight with his rook. And instead of capturing the rook back with my queen, I would probably use my rook to take his queen. Okay, so that definitely wins material. I don't see any way for white to get out of that. So let's play that. Check. Check. Okay, take the queen. And I believe we can take this rook here. There's no mate back here. I can take the bishop. So if I take the rook, what's he to do? Yeah, he has no checks or capture. Well, he's got this capture. But then I can follow up with that capture, and I'm still ahead material. So let's go for that rook. Okay, play continues. So now he is threatening mate. He just defended the bishop here, so rook to d8 is mate. I have to guard against that. Perhaps I played too quickly and shouldn't have gone into this line until I verified everything. That's usually my intent, is I want to play the whole puzzle out mentally before starting the first move. Okay, so how do I get out of mate? I can move this pawn to gain an escape square. Is there any other way? I can't move the king anywhere right now. And I can't defend this square. I can't take these pieces. I think this is forced. Yeah, I see nothing else other than like a silly spite check or a queen sack to block. I can't really stop the mate there any other way, so we're going to push the pawn. Okay, so the puzzle finally ends. It took me 3 minutes and 26 seconds. It was a 1960 rated puzzle. The target time is 31 seconds, and the more time you take, the less points you'll get. But I've noticed there's like a minimum of +5 for some reason. Even if I take several minutes, it usually gives me +5. So that's why I do take my time. So let's try another puzzle. Okay, king and pawn endgame here. So the obvious move is to improve my king to c6, getting closer to this pair of pawns here. King to c6, what are the replies? Well, he doesn't want to move that pawn and lose it. I would queen soon. That's winning for me. If he pushes this pawn, I can take it. He takes back. I run here. He runs there. I run there. Hey, I get this pawn and I win. So he can't push this pawn either. Well, let's see. If he goes here and he doesn't take it, no, my king's here. He can't do that. So yeah, he can't push that pawn or that pawn. So he has to move the king if I move up here. That means he has to move the king down here or here. Then I can continue improving my king by going to c5. And again, he can't push either pawn. This just looks completely winning for black for me. It looks just too easy. After c5, he might return his king back to a6. Yeah, that's I guess it's a little tricky. So king here, let's say king comes down. Maybe after the king comes down, maybe I push the pawn there. And if he takes, I take, and my king is well positioned to win this pawn. So that looks pretty good. And if he doesn't take, if he tries to slip past, am I queening first? Yeah, his king was going to be trapped there. He would have to get out on a7 and b8. And he'd take a lot of tempi. You'd take 6 tempi to queen his pawn, and I'm only 4 tempi away from queening. So I would queen first. So I think king to c6, and then his king will come down to one of these two squares, and I'll push the pawn. Let me make sure I'm winning this pawn without dropping that. So king to c6, king down here, or maybe, yeah, I think that's forced. Pawn here, takes, king comes over. I come over, he comes over, over, over. Yeah, it's a little tricky. If I go up, he goes up. They can't take his pawn. Yeah, so it's not quite working. Let's look at that again. Maybe the move is not pushing the pawn. Takes, comes over here. I go here, 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 here. Oh yeah, I just run up that way. And then, yeah, I'll queen the pawn. So after taking, I'll run to c4 and d3 and grab that pawn. That should work. Okay, let's go for it. Then we push the pawn. Okay, and then I run this way. Okay, that works. All right, all thought out. Okay, so with that few pawns and pieces on the board there, we should get those right. Okay, another 5 points. Took me 4 minutes. 21-15 rated puzzle. Let's try another one. Another king and pawn endgame. I like these. I do enjoy these. Okay. So equal number of pawns right now. So we just captured one of my pawns. So obvious question is, should I recapture? So what other candidate moves are there besides recapturing here? I mean, he's threatening to capture my pawn. If I move my king here and he captures my pawn, he's luring my king down, and he's going to take this pawn. That doesn't look good for me with this pair of pawns here. So he's threatening to take this. So if I don't want to lose this to his king, I think I have to take his pawn. So let's analyze that. Okay, what if he captures back with his g pawn? So his pawn structure is shattered. Then I can go over here. And he doesn't want his king to budge and let me up. So you could push this pawn, but then I grab, no, I'm over here now. So here, 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 here. I can return. Yeah, he can draw me down to this b5 square and then grab that. That doesn't look good. So I really don't want to step over here and allow a4 and then b5, and he's going to draw my king to that square and grab that pawn. So I really don't want to move my king there in any of these lines, I don't think. So here, here. What else is there? I don't think I can push this pawn. He's queening first, and he's queening with check. So if I don't push that pawn, I don't want to push this pawn. He'd get a pair of connected pawns here and here. Can't do anything with that. So if I'm not going to push these pawns, and I don't think I want to push that pawn, I'm going to have to move my king. But the only way to move it and keep in contact with that pawn is over here, and then I'm faced with this again. Some kind of pawn race going on. No, I just don't like this. I don't know what to do after that recapture. Play this move first. It doesn't do anything. I just don't want to lose this pawn. For example, if I move my king right now, if he takes, I'm forced to either go here or here, and he's going to grab that pawn. And I don't see how I can force through a pawn. This is pretty hard. If I take and he recaptures, I don't know what I'm missing here. Is there anything I can do besides take on f4? Can't push that. Just gets captured and he queens quickly. If I push this, he captures. And I have... Ooh, then I might be able to push this pawn. Maybe that's it. E3, threatening to take here, might force, I believe, forces f takes e3, and then if I played e4, these two pawns are holding back these three pawns. So, and my e pawn is holding back his e pawn. So he can't move any of these pawns. So he either has to move this pawn and get it captured, or this pawn and get this one captured, or he has to back off with the king and allow me to come forward. As long as coming forward means I'm going to win, which I think it does, because he'll have a pawn sitting here that I can capture. I think that's it. I think it's e3, f takes e3, and then e4. So it's a pawn sacrifice in order to get up with the king. All right, so I took a while there to discard this pawn capture, and I'm going for this. Okay, and then I'm pushing that forward. Yeah, he pushes this pawn and gives up this one. Okay, he's going to try to break through over here. I guess I should have considered that, because after this move, he can mutually queen. I don't think I have any other move right now than to take that. I don't have time to do something like take this pawn and let him take this pawn. Yeah, that's not any progress. Moving back, he's going to take here and queen. I have nothing to do but take. It's forced. Any other move loses. Maybe that move loses too. I don't think it does. Let's see. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a puzzle. Yeah, I'm going to queen first. Can he queen with check? If I queen first, his king is in danger. I have this pawn still. So, for example, if he comes here, I think I just let him proceed, because if I take here, then he comes here, and I'll queen, and then he'll queen right after me with check. So here, if he comes here, I'm just going to let that pawn either capture on g6 or move to h6, and I'm going to move forward. And then he'll queen one step behind me, and he'll queen on one of these two squares. So that's the idea. Okay, he moves that pawn. So I think I have to take it because it's threatening to come down here and queen with check. So I take it, and I'm going to queen first. Yeah, and the puzzle ends. Okay. So that one took quite a while, 6 minutes, 48 seconds, but it's good to analyze these. You really learn something if you take your time in these puzzles. That was a 24-44 rated puzzle. Okay, so I'm going to try just one more. Okay, so what's the material balance here? Looks like black is up a pawn. Just attacked my rook. My king looks pretty safe. The g2 square is covered. He has the rook and queen pointed at that square. My knight is pinned. I have this obvious check right here, which would fork the king and bishop. Can I get away with just checking and taking the bishop? So how does he get out of check? I do have to, no, I can't just grab the bishop because again, I have to keep my eye on the g2 square. He would have queen takes g2 check if I run over and grab that bishop. So if I call check here, he has to move over there. There's no other legal move, no way to block the check. And then what do? I don't want to take the bishop. I'm not going to analyze any further after queen takes g2 unless I have to go back to that later, but I don't think that holds for me because then king would go over and he can even take the knight with check and get the rook down here on the second rank. So yeah, I have to find a different move now besides taking the bishop. Maybe it's not that move. Another move that springs to mind is saving the rook, which has just been attacked by moving it here. Does that trap his queen? So rook to h4. What does he have there? Yeah, he can't save his queen. It has no moves. If he takes the rook, I take the queen. He really has no follow-up other than grabbing a quick pawn. And if he takes here, I take the queen, and he takes my queen, and I get his rook, and again, I'm up a rook. If he takes this pawn, yeah, what if he takes that pawn? Then I don't want to take the bishop and then let the queen out and take my rook. So now the line I have to consider is not queen h4, rook h4, bishop takes e3. What do I do there? Do I just take the queen and then he takes my queen and I take his bishop and then yeah, I'm up a knight. He has a couple pawns there, but his pawns are pretty weak. So I'd be up a piece. Yeah, I'm going to go for that, up a piece. Let's try that. Okay, he just gives up material like that. So I'm curious. I'm going to look at the analysis here. Okay, so what if I had faced this move? Oh, yeah, the engine just says I have a check here, of course. Then he has to get out of check somehow, and then I could take the queen. Okay, so he had no way out of that. All right, I should have seen that. Okay, thanks for watching the puzzles here. That one was rated 2292. It was a pretty easy puzzle for such a high rating. I guess people are lured into just grabbing that pawn with check and forking that king and the bishop. So don't play impulsively in puzzles. Use puzzles as a way to practice your visualization and analysis and to be correct. Don't guess. All right, thanks for watching.